In the mystical realm of Auroria, where kingdoms floated above endless seas of clouds, whispers of intrigue twisted through the air like tendrils of smoke. Each kingdom thrived upon the unique magic drawn from the heart of the elements, maintaining an intricate balance of power that was as delicate as a spider's web. On this particular dawn, the usual dreamy tranquility was shattered as alarm bells tolled across the city of Zephyra. High above, a young novice named Lyra scaled the tower walls with the reckless confidence of someone far too entranced to consider fear. Her auburn hair caught the morning light, making her seem aflame as she climbed. She moved swiftly, driven by a compulsion to reach the forbidden ethereal spire, where the secrets of elemental magic hummed just beyond her grasp. Today felt different. It was as if the elements whispered her name, urging her onward. Reaching the top, Lyra found herself gazing at an ancient pedestal housing the Elementallis Codex, an artifact said to hold every known incantation and the key to the elemental balance of Auroria. As her fingers brushed its surface, the world around her seemed to ripple. Suddenly, a shockwave of energy pulsed outward, resonating with every fiber of her being. "Lyra, no!" came a voice, sharp and panicked. From the stairwell emerged Elder Finley, the Academy's sternest mage, his robes flaring around him as he rushed forward, eyes wide. "You've no idea what you've—" Before he could finish, the sunlight dimmed as shadows entwined with the very air, coalescing into a shape that both filled and darkened the tower. A manifestation of an ancient force, something dreadfully unnatural. Words seemed to echo from deep within its shadowy form, chilling and foreboding. "The Oblivion awakens because of you." Lyra's heart pounded as she stumbled back, her mind racing with the impossibility of what she'd done. As fear took hold, a primal instinct urged her to reach within, to seize control of the energy she had unknowingly unleashed. Flames of fire, torrents of water, gusts of wind, and tremors of earth, each bowing to her unintentional command. Elder Finley's gaze turned from shock to wonder as the realization dawned. You can wield them all," he whispered, awe mingling with dread. The Oblivion's chilling whisper lingered as it faded into the shadows. "Balance must be restored, or all will be consumed." Lyra trembled, feeling the weight of the world pressing upon her shoulders. In that moment, she understood that destiny had chosen her. She was the key to uniting the fractured world of Auroria against the dark tide, rising to consume it all. The murmurs of the startled city below faded into the background as Lyra reluctantly descended the tower. The echoes of the Oblivion's voice haunted her every step. She had been a mere novice, dabbling in the simplest of elemental charms, yet in an instant, her reality had been upended. Elder Finley's revelation gnawed at her, burrowing alongside the Oblivion's cryptic warning. Reaching the Academy grounds, she found a gathering of anxious eyes upon her. The whispered name Lyra threaded through the crowd, mingling with words like chosen and cursed. She felt acutely aware of her newfound power, a raw and untamed force stirring beneath her skin. "What happens now?" she dared to ask Finley, trailing him through the maze-like corridors of the ancient school. Each step echoed with unease. The elder mage paused, his expression softened by a tide of contemplation. "The kingdoms must be warned. Each elemental magic must shield itself. Yet in unity lies our true defense. You, child, are the bridge." Lyra's breath caught as she processed his words. "But I'm not ready," she protested, arms instinctively hugging herself. "None ever truly are, yet the threads of fate are rarely mistaken," Finley replied, his voice a gravely whisper that carried the weight of history. "You will not be alone in this." As if on cue, the hasty scuffle of boots interrupted their conversation. From the crowd emerged a rugged figure, testifying to a life spent amid adventure. His cloak flared behind him, each step more audacious than the last. He was Rylan, a sky pirate notorious for his deft hand with locks and quicksilver wit. His smirk was as infamous as the stories surrounding him. "Well, I'll be damned," Rylan drawled, eyeing Lyra with barely contained amusement. "I get summoned by an old wizard, and here I find a girl set to save us all?" World's flipped its lid, hasn't it? Lyra's cheeks flushed as she returned his gaze, trying to read deeper than his mask of bravado. And I suppose you're here to keep me from falling out of the sky? Rylan chuckled, the sound devoid of mockery. Among other things, you'll need a thief's touch where we're going, kid. Together with Finley, whose copper-red cloak billowed like a beacon of forgotten eras, they formed an unlikely trio, embarking on a mission with stakes higher than they dared comprehend. Their immediate goal: reach the Stormforge, where the Wind Kingdom Jafiria harnessed its power, a vital step in forging an alliance against the encroaching darkness. As they journeyed toward the skyport, the horizon spread vast and daunting. Lyra, Rylan, and Elder Finley took to the skies aboard the Zephyr's Grace, a majestic airship whose sails sang to the winds. The world below receded, leaving only clouds and the promise of an adventure that would determine the fate of all. In Lyra's heart, a potent mix of fear and excitement coiled. With each gust of wind, she felt herself edging closer to a destiny that was becoming inescapable. Aboard the Zephyr's Grace, the air shimmered with possibilities and unspoken tension. As the vessel cut through fluffy clouds, Lyra stood at the prow, eyes closed to the rush of wind. The air tasted different at this altitude, crisp and invigorating, flooded with elemental resonance she was only beginning to understand. She clung to these sensations as a starving person does a morsel of bread, desperately trying to piece together the mysteries of her newfound powers. Rylan sauntered up beside her, his strides betraying a swagger in harmony with the gallant airship. His grin remained irrepressible, a lighthouse in the tempest of their reality. Dreaming of glory, or just trying not to think about how high up we are? He teased, gazing out at the endless horizon that seemed more canvas than world. Lyra opened her eyes, meeting his gaze with a mix of challenge and youthful determination. More like trying to listen, she admitted. Everything feels loud, especially today. I'm not used to it. You'll get the hang of it, Rylan assured, leaning casually on the ship's railing. Tell me, though, why you? Plenty of mages in the realms, yet here we are, pinning our hopes on a girl who wasn't supposed to touch an elemental codex. Lyra hesitated, chewing on her words. Honestly, I don't know, she confessed. Maybe it's not about knowing why, but what we do with it. Elder Finley joined them silently, listening to their exchange with the patience of an ancient tree. Indeed, young one. Sometimes, the greatest magic lies in reshaping destiny, not merely submitting to it, he said, his voice like gentle thunder. Their conversation was cut short as the airship began its descent toward their destination. Jafiria loomed ahead, a kingdom suspended amongst the clouds, its towers swaying like sentinels in the wind. The Stormforge awaited. An imposing edifice, its presence both protective and daunting. Touching down, they were met by Rowena, Jafiria's prime archmage, her presence as formidable as the storm she commanded. Her silver hair flowed like liquid moonlight, eyes as sharp as the gales. Elder Finley, she acknowledged, nodding with respect, then turned to Lyra. And you are the one who sparked the awakening. I am, Lyra replied, her voice steady despite the awe-inspiring aura of the archmage. Rowena studied her intently, the weight of her scrutiny both terrifying and oddly comforting. The winds speak of a path fraught with peril, yet also one bound with hope. Are you ready to stand against Oblivion's advances? Lyra hesitated, then firmed her resolve. I'll do what I can with those at my side. We seek an alliance, for the darkness will not stop with one kingdom. Rowena's expression shifted, calculation giving way to a fierce determination mirroring Lyra's own. Then let us see if your courage can stir the skies to our favor. We must prepare for the trials ahead, blend our magics to hold back the encroaching dark. Thus began a new chapter of sharing knowledge and magic, allies uniting under a common threat. Each day Lyra tapped further into her burgeoning powers, guided by the seasoned hands of Elder Finley and the invaluable resources of Jafiria. Here, amidst the swirling winds and charged air, the seeds of resistance were sown, a tapestry of fates intertwining in ways yet to be revealed. Days passed in a blur of enchantment and endeavor, as Lyra, Rylan, and Elder Finley immersed themselves in Jafiria's ethereal wonders. Lyra's training intensified under Rowena's tutelage, each session a dance of elements upon the Stormforge's exalted stage. With wind and lightning at her fingertips, she learned to channel and blend, wielding these primal forces with growing confidence. Yet, the weight of her responsibility lingered, a reminder that every step forward was another toward the fierce unknown. One evening, as amber skies dimmed to violet, Lyra joined Rylan atop a cliff overlooking the kingdom. Below, Jaffiria's spires stood stalwart against the encroaching night, their silhouette a testament to resilience. "It's strange," Lyra admitted, drawing her cloak tighter against the chill air, "to think that in all this beauty, darkness hides just out of sight." Rylan nodded, his usual humor tempered by contemplation. "Been in the shadows enough to know they're as much a part of the world as the light. It's our job to make sure they don't swallow everything whole." Lyra smiled softly, appreciating the echo of strength in his words. "Do you ever wonder why you're here, Rylan? I mean, really here, amidst all this?" The question hung between them, and for a moment, Rylan's bravado slipped. "Guess maybe it wasn't just luck that found me crossing paths with you and Finley," he confessed. "Part of me wants to believe there's a reason I'm here, 'cause I sure as heck didn't stumble into it." As the shadows deepened, their gaze turned skyward, lost in the constellations and the vastness beyond. It was a reminder of things greater than themselves, of battles fought not just below, but in the spirit and heart. Their quiet would soon be interrupted by piercing horn calls echoing from the forge, an alarm that the barriers had been breached. Jaffiria's magical defenses flickered ominously, shrouded in a cloud darkened by the presence of an advancing menace. Together, Lyra and Rylan raced back to the central tower, where Finley and Rowena orchestrated a magical reinforcement. "The Oblivion's forces are on the march," Finley announced, his voice resolute. "We must hold the line until we can properly respond." The team sprang into action, eyes focused and hearts steeled. As Rylan and the Jaffirian guard manned the defenses, Lyra joined Finley and Rowena in amplifying the kingdom's magical wards, piecing together the fragmenting aura. Minutes felt like hours in their desperate struggle, but slowly the barrages subsided, the darkness retreating just beyond their reach. Panting and exhausted, they had won a reprieve without knowing what the next hour could bring. Rowena turned to Lyra, admiration and urgency mingling in her gaze. "There lies your test and tribulation, young elementalist. To endure the unknown while forging tomorrow's path. We shall stand with you, just as you must stand with us." Lyra nodded, the fire rekindled in her core. "We're far from beaten," she declared, grasping the lingering embers of hope. For as long as they drew breath, as long as the elements themselves could be harnessed, there would fight back the encroaching gloom. This, she realized, was the strength that would carry them forward, the courage to rise again. And rise they would. After the night of the breaches, the air in Jaffiria held a sharper edge, tension woven into its very fabric. Conversations turned to fortification strategies, to alliances spanning beyond floating islands, and whispers of prophecy breathed life at every corner of the realm. Lyra stood amidst the bustling war room, a map of Auroria sprawled before her. Her eyes traced the marked locations where Oblivion's reach had been felt firsthand, where darkness had seeped through unbidden. It was a stark reminder of what lay at stake, a world teetering on the brink. Rylan was deep in discussion with the skyship captains, his usual jocular demeanor veiled by the seriousness of command. Finley, ever the anchor, strategized alongside Rowena and the gathered leaders, their collective determination unshakable. Breaking away from the deliberations, Lyra ventured to an alcove overlooking the city's gardens. Here, she was joined by a new ally, Alara, a scholarly mage from the Levethian archives. She had arrived at Jaffiria by way of the finest airship in her order, bringing ancient texts and a vast intellectual resource to the coalition. "It's overwhelming, isn't it?" Alara said, her voice quiet like a leaf brushing against its stem yet carrying the depth of oceans. "To find oneself at the heart of change is no small thing." Lyra nodded, appreciating the empathy woven into her words. "Do you regret coming here, leaving everything behind?" Alara laughed lightly, a sound like chimes on a breeze. "Knowledge is rarely found where you expect it, and besides, the cause is just, the fight necessary. We all have roles to play, Lyra, each and every one of us." Their conversation was interrupted by a flurry of movement as Rylan entered, his expression lively, sparked by a gleam of discovery. "Got news," he announced, gathering Lyra and the rest of the key players. There's a force of Oblivion's own assembling near the glacial rift. Intel suggests it's some kind of summoning. Lyra's pulse quickened. This was their chance to strike a blow, to disrupt the dark tide before it could batter their defenses again. "We have to stop it," she said, urgency lacing her voice. "Aye," Finley agreed, eyes glinting with resolve. "We must not let them complete their rites. Gaining foothold at the rift could shift the balance fully against us." Rowena nodded, her own resolve matching his. "Quickly then we must depart. We drive the darkness back, dagger it before its poison takes root." As Lyra prepared for the journey to the glacial rift, her heart was a cauldron of anticipation and fear. She knew the path of destiny was never straight nor gentle, but fraught with twists and shadows. Yet this knowledge only fueled her determination to protect the realms she called home. With revitalized purpose, Lyra and her allies boarded the Zephyr's Grace once more. The airship soared, chasing dawn's first light as they made their way to the icy expanse that awaited, where the element's fury would clash with darkness' intent. In her heart, Lyra carried the hope of the people, their prayers for courage, foolish perhaps to some, but a power unlike any other. And as they sailed onward, she knew their journey had only just begun. The wind sliced like a knife through the frigid air as the Zephyr's Grace approached the glacial rift. This remote expanse of ice and rock was a frozen tapestry, harsh and unforgiving. The crew's breath fogged in the cold, mingling with the urgency that propelled them through this desolate landscape. Lyra's heart beat like a war drum, her connection to the elements humming beneath her skin in anticipation. As the airship hovered above a valley blanketed in frost, Lyra saw the signs of Oblivion's corruption below, a dark, swirling mass of energy that resonated with malefic intent. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a dark symphony orchestrated by the unknown force that threatened the realm. Auroria joined Lyra at the rail, her eyes wide with the kind of academic curiosity only someone of her background could muster, even in peril. "They're harnessing the power of the rift itself," she said. "This ritual, it's nothing short of a catastrophe waiting to happen." Finley gathered their makeshift council, urgency clipped into his words. "We split into two forces, one to disrupt their ritual, and the other to fend off any of the creatures Oblivion has undoubtedly stationed to guard their proceedings." Lyra nodded, the plan forming rapidly in her mind. "Rylan, you and your crew take the defensive perimeter. Alara, you'll help me at the core of the ritual." Rylan saluted with that trademark devil-may-care grin. "Let's show these dark sorcerers just how an air pirate handles a bad wind." With resolve forged in necessity, they descended to the icy battlefield, the landscape gleaming like jagged shards of glass. The tension was palpable, with the knowledge that every moment spent here could pull them closer to the abyss. As they approached the heart of the rift, Lyra sensed an eerie silence, the kind that meant something significant, and likely very dangerous, was near completion. Dark hooded figures surrounded the mass of conjured energy, chanting in a language that gnawed at the mind. Alara and Lyra exchanged a glance, wordless understanding passing between them. Together, they began to weave their own spell, a counterforce drawn from the very elements that Oblivion sought to corrupt. Wind, ice, and the crackling resonance of lightning answered their call, twining together in a brilliant display of elemental might. The energy surged and rippled, colliding with the darkness in a cataclysmic display of light and shadow, echoing like thunderclaps across the rift. Around them, Rylan and his team fought fiercely, their flashes of steel reflecting the magical clash overhead. His laughter rang out amidst the chaos, a rallying cry that buoyed the spirit of battle. With a final burst of determination, Lyra and Alara shattered the ritual, the dark energy detonating back into itself in a firework of shadows and screams. The dark mages were flung back, their chants silenced, purpose thwarted. Breathless and exhilarated, Lyra stood victorious, the remnants of the dark magic fading into the icy wind. The weight lifted from her shoulders replaced by hope and newfound strength. They had not only stalled Oblivion's plan, but they had learned, grown stronger for the trials. The battle may have been won, but in the deep shadows of the glacial caverns, the echoes of future skirmishes lingered. With a renewed commitment to their cause, Lyra and her allies prepared for the return journey, resolute and ready for whatever the realm demanded of them next. The trilateral expanse of night gave way to a new dawn as the Zephyr's Grace sailed back to Jephyria, the crew buoyed by their recent triumph. Yet amid their victory, restless anticipation lingered in the air, the pervasive knowledge that their battles were far from over. Lyra stood at the helm, watching the interplay of colors across the sky. Beside her, Elder Finley observed the horizon with a mind that was both analytical and compassionate, the warmth of his presence a guide through the still uncharted paths ahead. "The Isles are holding their breath," Finley started, his words a connection bridging both past and present. "Oblivion has more up its sleeve than summoning a dark mass at the rift. This was just a taste." Lyra nodded, the responsibility sitting snugly upon her shoulders. "I feel it too," she said, voice quiet yet charged with resolve. "It's like the realm itself is watching, waiting for what comes next." Rylan joined them, an irrepressible glint in his eyes, despite the gravity of their situation. "Wouldn't be the first time the world's turned against me," he remarked wryly, "but this time it feels pretty personal." The ship glided smoothly into Jephyria's bay, welcomed by the watchful eyes of their newfound allies. Rowena met them at the dock, her presence as steadfast and fierce as the elements she commanded. "Your deeds resonate far beyond this kingdom, and their impact has started to shift the tide," she said, acknowledging their victory with a nod. "But more whispers reach us. Word spreads of other disturbances. Unrest brews in the heart of the Verdontoa, the kingdom of Earth." Alara, joining the group, unfolded a well-worn map, her scholarly fingers tracing the rugged terrain of Verdontoa. "There are reports of the very roots rebelling, Earth rending itself apart. Whatever is stirring there may well be connected to Oblivion's machinations." Lyra felt the pull of responsibility, the call to take action resounding like a second heartbeat. "Then that's where we go next," she declared, her conviction a beacon guiding them forward. "We can't afford to lose Verdontoa to whatever darkness stirs beneath." The crew and their allies busied themselves with preparations, the urgency of their task reflected in sharpened swords and readied bags. The window for action was narrowing, the need for unity and strength never more critical. By midday, they were aloft once again, soaring toward the sprawling lushness of the Verdontoa landscapes. Against a backdrop of endless green, where forests stretched into impenetrable expanses and mountains touched the skies, Lyra and her companions knew these looming challenges would test them to their very core. As new layers of destiny unfurled ahead, Lyra reaffirmed her commitment, each sense poised and ready for whatever faced them next. Her grasp on the elements was growing, her mastery over herself the most important battle won each day. They flew on, determination underscored by the whisper of winds and the silent promise of what lay ahead in their winding path toward salvation, a path where both courage and the power of the elements would be their guiding stars. The Zephyr's Grace descended into the heart of Verdontoa, its lush forests vibrant on one hand and deeply troubled on the other. Here the air tasted of rich loam and ancient secrets, each tree a sentinel whispering the songs of the earth. Lyra, Rylan, and their allies disembarked, met by an envoy of Verdontoa's elemental guardians, whose expressions were grave and cautious. Chief among them was Thalor, keeper of the depths, his presence as imposing as the mountains. "You have come at a dire time," Thalor greeted, his deep-set eyes studying each of them in turn. "The land speaks of pain, our roots tremble with unrest." Beside him, Miri, a young but skilled earth-shaper with vines braided into her hair, nodded in agreement. "Our probes into the caverns have been met with increasing resistance. Places once fertile now bear only emptiness and ruin." Her words betrayed a note of sadness, her connection to the land evident. Elder Finley stepped forward, his wisdom a calming force. "We are here to aid you, to uncover and counter whatever force threatens this kingdom." Lyra felt the pull of the earth's distress in every step upon the soft ground, each pulse of her power an echo of its agony. "Where is the heart of this disturbance?" she asked, seeking to grasp this thread of darkness. Thalor's gaze turned towards the distant silhouette of the Stoneheart Caverns, their entrance haloed by creeping shadows. "The corruption festers there, beneath the cradle of our power." With determination, Lyra and her companions prepared for what awaited them within the Stoneheart. Armed with spells, steel, and the unyielding resolve to protect the realm, they set off, their path winding into the cavern's dark embrace. Inside, the air was thick and cloying, the stone walls whispering of ages gone by. As they progressed deeper, Lyra felt the oppressive weight of Oblivion's influence, a nauseating familiarity that set her nerves alight. Glistening eyes peered from the shadows as they ventured further, creatures born of darkness lurking at every turn. Ryland's blade flashed, quick as thought, while Alara shielded their rear with shimmering wards. Finally, they reached the cavern's heart where the land's pain was most palpable. A swirling mass of ethereal darkness pulsed from a fissure in the earth, tendrils of shadow worming their way into the stone. "This is it," Lyra whispered, steeling herself for what must be done. She turned to face her allies, determination blazing in her eyes. "We need to sever this connection, to redress the balance and restore the Earth's heart." Together they formed a circle, channeling their combined might into dispelling the dark presence. Lyra reached down to her very soul, coaxing forth the elements to dance at her command. Power surged through her in a kaleidoscope of elemental fury. Fire, water, earth, and air, each harmonized in a magnificent symphony that clashed fiercely against the forces of darkness. With a primal cry, Lyra directed their might into the heart, overwhelming the corruption with pure elemental light. The shadows recoiled, dissipating with a final anguished scream until only silence remained. Amidst the stillness, Lyra felt a pulse beneath her feet, the heartbeat of the earth, restored and enduring. She breathed deeply, feeling at once both small and infinite, connected to the myriad paths of the world. Their task complete, Lyra and her companions emerged triumphant, knowing that while one battle had ended, the war against Oblivion persisted, and so too would their unyielding fight for Auroria. Having restored Verdontoa's heart, a sense of cautious optimism marked their return to Jephyria. The news of their success was a beacon of hope, yet Lyra knew deep down that the veil of calm was temporary. The clash with Oblivion had revealed a concerning truth. The darkness was learning, adapting, and their challenges would only grow. Conversations around strategy intensified as advisors from across the kingdoms poured into Jephyria. The coalition grew in strength and numbers, each representative aware that this alliance was the bulwark against an ever-encroaching doom. With this newfound collaboration, a daring plan took form, an audacious strike aimed at the core of Oblivion's power, believed to reside within the Shadow Nexus, a place spoken of only in fearful whispers. Lyra felt an equal measure of dread and determination settle within her. She had become the linchpin in this pivotal strategy, her unique abilities a beacon to guide their collective efforts. In quiet moments, the weight of her journey pressed upon her. She stood on Jephyria's cliffs once more, watching the sun dip beneath the horizon, painting the sky with hues of molten gold. Beside her, Ryland admired the view with a newfound sobriety. "Bit more than we bargained for, eh?" he said, his smile tempered by the reality of their situation. "I was just thinking that," Lyra replied, her heart full of unspoken fears. "But we've come this far. We can't turn back now." Ryland nodded, closing his eyes to savor the breeze. "Ever think about what you'd be doing if this hadn't all started? Simple life, maybe even boring?" Lyra smiled faintly, the simplicity of it foreign to her now. "I can't imagine it anymore. Maybe we're meant for this, to be here, doing something that matters." Their shared moment of reflection was interrupted by Elder Finley's call. "It's time." Assembled in the council hall, Lyra and her team prepared to embark on their most perilous journey yet. The atmosphere was charged with the electricity of determination, each person aware of the journey's gravity. Alara, ever the embodiment of quiet wisdom, placed a reassuring hand on Lyra's shoulder. "The Shadow Nexus is unlike any place we've faced. Remember, it's your heart that guides the elements. Let it lead you." Rowena's voice cut through, a steel edge of command. "Together, we form our last line. If Oblivion is to be defeated, it starts with this strike." With new resolve, they boarded the Zephyr's Grace, its sails unfurling under a starlit sky. Each ally took their place, ready for the perilous flight towards the Shadow Nexus, a place where the elements themselves bent under the weight of shadow. As the airship soared into the unknown, Lyra reflected on how far they'd come, the trials endured, and the bonds forged in fire and friendship. Theirs was a journey born of necessity, but shaped by courage, an unwritten testament to humanity's resolve against the tide of darkness. Guided by hope and unity, they approached their most formidable challenge, knowing that the fate of Auroria hung in the balance. With hearts of flame and elemental power at her command, Lyra led the charge into the depths of darkness, her spirit unyielding against the encroaching night. As the Zephyr's grace carved through the night, the landscape beneath transformed into a tapestry of twilight, cloaked in an unsettling quiet that heralded their journey's climax, the Shadow Nexus. It was said to be a realm where the world unraveled, where shadows held sway, and it was here they'd find the heart of Oblivion's influence. The airship descended, its crew tense and vigilant as the inky darkness of the Nexus enveloped them. The elements that had always whispered reassuringly to Lyra now stirred with a wild, unpredictable edge, as if sensing the malignance below. As they touched down, it was as if the world held its breath. Wreathed in shadow, Lyra and her allies disembarked, forging their path into the heart of darkness. Every step was a test of will, the shadows contorting into shapes of fear, each whispering doubts and despair. Yet Lyra pressed forward, her determination a beacon, keeping the shadows at bay. Beside her, Rylan, Alara, and Finley stood resolute, united by purpose and an unspoken bond, each lending strength to the others. At the center, the Shadow Nexus unveiled its core, a swirling vortex of darkness, a maelstrom of Oblivion's creation. Here they must face the ultimate challenge, to quell the blood of shadows and restore freedom to the elements. "This is it," Rylan murmured, awe and trepidation in his voice. Alara's eyes burned with fierce determination. "We end it here, or not at all. The elements are with us, as are the hopes of all Auroria." Elder Finley stepped forward, his presence a bulwark of wisdom. "Then let us begin." Together, they invoked their strongest magics, unraveling the tapestry of darkness with the silken threads of light. Lyra closed her eyes, reaching deep into the wellspring of her powers, feeling the elements merge around her in an embrace of ethereal harmony. Wind, fire, water, earth, each bolstered her spirit, each surged to her command. The cacophony of power and possibility thrummed through her veins until she, along with her allies, was aglow with an incandescent force. The confrontation began with an eruption of energy, light clashing against shadow, in a dance as old as time. The vortex trembled under their onslaught, its shadows retracting like singed leaves in fire's caress. But Oblivion was relentless, bending the shadows to new forms, launching them with undeterred malice. Rylan's blade caught the dark in a whirl of movement, while Alara's spells guarded their flank. Understanding the heart of the vortex was vulnerable, Lyra reached out, urging her power into its depths, pushing past the pain and fear that clawed at her resolve. Her friends' voices anchored her, grounding her spirit amidst the chaos. With soul-deep certainty, she released all of her essence into the vortex, her elemental power woven with her will. The air surged with a crescendo of magic, and as the final thread of shadow unraveled, the vortex collapsed with a soundless implosion, leaving only silence and light. The Shadow Nexus's influence dissolved, the darkness banished by their combined strength and sacrifice. Around them, the land breathed anew, the elements alive and unfettered once more. Exhausted but triumphant, Lyra and her allies stood amidst the gently settling dusk, knowing their battle was one of legends. In the days that followed, a new dawn spread across Auroria, kingdoms united by the shared memory of a darkness defeated, a testament to the strength of hope and unity. Lyra, ever a beacon of possibility, understood now the power of the elements, the power within herself. And as the realm began to heal, she looked toward the horizon with unyielding hope, knowing that so long as they stood together, friend and ally, they could face whatever futures awaited. Thus, in the Chronicle of Elementallis, the story of strength, friendship, and the indomitable spirit of humankind finds its place, echoing in the hearts of those who dare to dream beyond the clouds.